Ratings have been down. This network needs to clean up its act.
5, try and get ahead of this coronavirus thing. 4,
Someone should cover it.
well, Bradley can do it. 3,
Don't forget, this is your show.
And we're back.
2, I know I come with a history that not all of you love.
1. 9 months ago, you opened a door, and you need to walk through it now.
And on to the set of Cordkillers!
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, but most importantly, I mean, that is what this is about. It's some TV show that's on Apple TV Plus, and they wanted to thank us, and they opened an interdimensional portal, and they
our new
want to
co-host,
appear.
Jennifer Aniston, will be
Yes,
joining us shortly.
That's her name. I always forget. I mean, they say you never forget your friends, but apparently I do. Hey, Bryce, what is this show?
That was part of the trailer for Apple TV Plus's The Morning Show Season 2. Will start airing on Apple TV Plus September 17th. It'll be weekly. We don't know if they're going to start with multiple episodes like they did last season, but it almost certainly will be a week-by-week show. That's September 17th.
So, of course, joining us, our guest for this week's Cordkillers,
Jennifer Aniston!
Iyaz Akhtar.
Oh, no, Iyaz Akhtar.
Yes, that is me. That is true. I am Jennifer Aniston's stand-in. I'm approximately her height, and I do wear a wig when I'm on the set of the morning show. But they do call me Aniston, which is a weird name. Something like Einstein. But I'm going to go with Iyaz today, if you guys don't mind. But yeah, apart from my side job as Jennifer Aniston's stand-in, I'm also Iyaz Akhtar, known as Iyaz. That's me on Twitter. You see me on Twitter. It's really exciting. It's like my head, and it like radiates stuff. That stuff is usually videos and thoughts, and sometimes, I'm not kidding, I will release me rapping right to camera. Why? Because I can, and basically I'm an adult, and this is what adults do, apparently.
Iyaz, I know
Because you
that,
can release it. Yeah.
I know the job of a good co-host is to save you by moving things forward, but I'm just fascinated. I could listen to an hour of this.
Time for the primary target.
Okay.
We have talked previously on Cordkillers about Nielsen's rating product, I guess you'd call it, The Gauge, which breaks down how people viewed TV by the type of delivery. That includes broadcast, cable, streaming, and other presumably made up of stuff like Blu-ray and things like that. The Tokyo Olympics were considered a broadcast ratings disappointment, as we mentioned before on the show, but The Gauge shows that the Olympics did reverse a steady downward trend for broadcast. Broadcast viewership rose 1% to make up 24% of viewing in July. Cable still rules the roost with 36% of viewing. Streaming is second at 28%, then 24% for broadcast. Though streaming has been gaining a point every month, so it's got a slow, steady creep on cable. The Olympics helped streaming as well with clips on YouTube and such, so that kind of helped accelerate streaming and broadcast. Another finding of The Gauge is that ad-supported video on demand services like Tubi or Pluto are now 1/3 of all streaming. The rest, of course, being like Netflix, Disney Plus, etc. Everyone assumes cable and broadcast will eventually go away. The question is not if, but when. Brian, given where we are in the trend, this is like a check-in of like, okay, here's how far down that road we are. How do you think this is going to play out?
I actually have a rather high-minded and highly speculative take on this. So before I weigh in and take us to the clouds, I would love to hear Iyaz's almost certainly more concrete take on it.
Well, I'm just looking at this. I'm just thinking about the Olympics in particular are quite the draw for no matter what venue they're going to go through, whether it's streaming, whether it's going to be on cable, whether it's going to be on television, or any of the networks that is owned by Universal. At this point, also like just trying to find something to watch. I think because we're still in that world, the Olympics are on, but is it on Peacock? Is it on CNBC's app? Can I watch it on MSNBC? Can I watch it on this other thing? I actually keep broadcast afloat because you know it's going to be on the networks. You know where the networks are. I know it's kind of an old man kind of a way of thinking, but like when I was asked where are the Olympics going to be, I had to direct people to sites to find like the thousands of locations it would be. So I think eventually, once there's a true universal search that people all understand, I don't think broadcast is going anywhere.
So This is amazing because you perfectly teed up my highfalutin, high-minded, weird metaphorical parallel. I found out that there's placental mammals, there's marsupial mammals, and there's monotremes. And it doesn't matter the difference. The point is that in an isolated environment like Australia, in the absence of placental mammals to fill a certain ecological niche, a marsupial will do the exact same thing. And so what all of this feels like to me, Tom and Iyaz, is that there is an inherent ecological niche for there's a thing happening. It's happening right now. I need to go to the place where the thing is, whatever the thing is, whether it's a major news event, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's a global, I don't know, like we had musicals for a little bit. And all of these numbers seem to be confirming that, number one, that niche will exist no matter what. Twitter will never be a substitute for it. You're not going to, maybe if, I don't know, Amazon buys the NFL or something, then there'll be one place for that kind of thing. But in general, there will be these moments where you won't know where to go. And all you'll think is, I want to go to the place where the thing that's happening right now is happening. And what we're seeing, all of these feel like side effects of that absence of that niche being filled. And in the absence of a placental mammal, we're going to get marsupials there, basically, which is why we're seeing, that essentially a broadcast television like live experience continue to expand, and why people are going back to broadcast. Because to be honest, the day that there was a tornado in my backyard, I straight up turned on the television and I went to the local NBC affiliate because that was the one place I knew for sure they'd be talking about the literal tornado that was in the backyard. And I can't think of anything that is going to compete with that for right now. Does any of this track, or do these all sound like high thoughts?
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good metaphor if people wrap their heads around it, because what you're saying is, television is a fuzzy animal, and we need fuzzy animals.
Now we're getting into high thoughts.
Right? Yeah, there's YouTube, but YouTube's a lizard, and that's great. But it's not a fuzzy animal. Sometimes you need a fuzzy animal, whether it's a marsupial or a mammal or a monotreme. Doesn't matter. We need it. And I think you're right. To your point about the tornado, I can envision a world in the future, and I don't know when this will be, where the tornado comes and you immediately go to your phone and turn on your local news service that is broadcasting wirelessly over your phone. And you use your phone because the cellular network is less likely to go down than your landline that you still have. And you get the equivalent of that broadcast news over your phone. But I don't think that happens soon because the broadcast infrastructure is there. It's more immediate. It doesn't have the lag issues. 5G is going to make lag better, but it's not going to get rid of it. So when you want that immediate, free over-the-air information, you are going to go to broadcast. That's why I think we are headed, I'm going to call it right now, for a cable collapse. Right now, cable's leading and streaming's creeping on it, and everybody thinks, well, broadcast is going to decline first. There's a point where broadcast will not decline anymore. There's a tipping point that cable hasn't reached, where everybody just shifts over to streaming. Streaming isn't ready for that yet. Streaming needs to get all of its ducks in a row so you don't have to wonder where the Olympics are. You'll just know, oh, it's on Peacock or whatever it is. Once we get there, and once everybody goes, oh, you mean I can control what I watch and control what I pay? There's going to be a collapse in cable. It will become less popular than broadcast, and broadcast will continue to stick around because the infrastructure is already there and it's free. And I think the ad-supported video on demand success proves that. It's like, oh, we could still sell ads on the free over-the-air stuff too. So it's just kind of it's the monotreme to Tubi's marsupial.
So before we let Iyaz give us a final grade on our clearly marijuana-inspired essay, the one other thing I'll say is to me, if I was going to condense everything I tried to say, it's that these are lagging indicators of an existing absence, more than anything, lacking any forward progress. Like what I really want is there's a thing, whether the thing is an Olympics or a Super Bowl or whatever big global cultural moment or whatever. What I want to do is pull out my phone and it says, there's a thing. And I click on it and I'm there. Lacking that, we're all stepping backwards or sideways into these other options. Iyaz, how much of this tracks with you?
Well, a lot of it does. I'm kind of lost on the animals and who's got scales and who's got fuzziness, because ducks are fuzzy and then peacocks are also fuzzy.
That's Tom's ignorance
anyway,
of
I've got
no. You're just overthinking it.
With my bio degree firmly behind me, I mean physically firmly behind me, it's somewhere behind me. I will say this: broadcast, because of it's really robust. We're talking about just the sheer amount of data you can send to lots and lots of different people. If you're looking for like the highest quality 4K video, the highest quality HD video, it's not compressed. And again, it's so weird when you say to somebody, hey, you can get this for free if you just hook up this silly little piece of metal. So I don't think broadcast is going to die off completely, just because as long as it stays as robust as it is, and the frequencies aren't reused for stuff like broadband internet, then people will still rely on it forever. But like when Tom was talking about your phone will be the option, if every single broadcaster can have a live stream all the time, they can access your phone all the time, like that would be pretty interesting if they could directly sell it to you. But I don't know if we're close to that yet, because now we're talking about essentially the affiliates having their own little thing, which is different than the networks, which is a whole other thing.
It's the world, which I don't think is hard to conceive, where the majority of people already pay a low amount for a high broadband wirelessly delivered internet. And maybe it isn't the phone. Maybe it's just all your connection comes from space or comes from this. We're talking 7G or 8G maybe. We're talking some kind of Starlink situation. But in that world, you're already paying for something anyway, so it's essentially free, and you get it that way. And again, I'm not trying to predict when that happens. I think that's when broadcast finally goes away. But I think until that day comes, you're right. Everybody, it's still more convenient to get TV. I would also, before we go ahead, Brian.
I was about to say, just to put a button on it, I was trying to think of an example that wasn't sports related, wasn't bad news related, wasn't politically related or whatever. Alien Contact. If Alien Contact was right now happening and you knew it was happening, you'd seen the Twitter messages or whatever, you might have a few seconds of confusion and not know how to tune in the local news. You don't want the delay or the disinformation on Twitter or whatever. To be honest, if Alien Contact was happening, I would go out to my car and turn on news radio, because I know for a fact I'm going to receive it. It's got a robust backbone. It will be up to, give or take, 30 seconds of everything. And that, number one, indicates to me that I mean, there is an unfilled niche when it comes to video entertainment and news, or up to the minute moment, whatever it is. Yeah, and the other thing
I'll be honest, in situations like that, not aliens, but other stuff that I needed to know immediately, I didn't want to go hook up my over-the-air antenna because I just moved into a house and hadn't done it. So I turned on Lowcast. I actually did turn to the internet. I was like, oh, but I can get my local channel over Lowcast. And did that. So there are going to be people who are like, yeah, I don't know how to get over-the-air broadcast, but I do know how to get those over-the-air broadcast channels through a service or an app or whatever.
Yeah, I might. I guess I would probably open up. I assume our local affiliate is like a Clear Channel thing, so I'd probably do the iHeartRadio app and find my local news affiliate to hear from it or something.
Yeah, and you could also quite often I've just gone straight to a local TV station's website on my phone.
Yep.
And found them live streaming something there. Before we move on, I know Brian already put a button on this, so I'm going to put a zipper on it. I get that ducks are fuzzy, so ducks are YouTube.
Yes, okay.
Fuzzy.
If I can add some suspenders to the belt.
Exactly the same, right? It's like, man, they're real close, but there's something different because they can fly.
All right, whatever the next segment is, go.
Well, folks, if you want more insight like this, all you got to do is support us on Cordkillers. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is the place to go to make this show possible. If you're like, man, I wish you could improve your metaphors and make them even better, support us Just a couple of bucks is all we ask. It's nothing. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. And then we get you early episodes of Spoilerin time. You get a whole separate show called After Talk where you find out what we're planning, what we're scheming, what kinds of animals we've been thinking about. It's all available. Brian, where do they go?
They go to patreon.com/Cordkillers. Thank you so much to every single one of us or every one of you guys keeping us loud, live, and independent.
Let's talk about how to watch. Netflix announced it's rolling out support for Apple's spatial audio feature for the iPhone and iPad so that when you're wearing compatible headphones, like Apple's AirPods Pro or the other set that they sell, spatial audio will position elements of the soundtrack around you. This is a cool thing especially if you're using like an iPad to watch. When you turn your head, the audio will still come from the side. So it's like, oh yeah, it really is coming from over there. And you get a little bit of the surround sound and stuff coming from behind you sometimes, things like that. Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, and HBO Max already support this. So Netflix is joining in on it as well. Brian, you've talked about watching a large majority of your TV not on a television, but I don't think we ever asked you about how important sound is to you.
I think that 1 year ago, I would have said not very important. But over the last year, I have found myself, relaxing in bed or whatever, just watching something on a phone. And I have been really impressed with how good positional audio has gotten over the years. So this is one of those features that is so good and so important. If they've done it right, that you won't notice that they've done anything at all. And it'll just be like, yeah, no, I feel like I was in a theater watching the thing. Now, you won't stop to think, whoa, this is like being in a theater. You'll just watch it and think, yeah, no, that was really good. I had a really good experience with it.
I was taken by surprise once when I was watching something on my phone and I kind of leaned over to get a glass of water and the audio moved.
That's
it wasn't
awesome.
the audio. I moved and it was like, whoa, it's like I moved away from the thing and it's like the thing's really
it found me.
I did notice it, but it was in a very positive way.
Yeah. Iyaz, do you keep up with all is this like one of those make or break things when it comes to phones or tablets or whatever?
I don't think it's make or break at all. I think it's one of those features that once you start using it, you're going to be annoyed that you didn't have it before.
Right.
And so far, I haven't messed with any of that. Like, I get the idea. It sounds like it would replicate a more natural soundstage. So when you're sitting there, you're like, okay, if you turn, that's how it's supposed to sound, as opposed to everything that's constantly blaring in your head. So I think it'd be a more familiar, almost open feel instead of when you have earbuds in your ear. So it could feel much more natural. But I haven't bothered to go into this world just yet.
Right. I want to drill down a little more though. Like a lot of people are like, man, I have to have great sound when I watch a movie. I want that 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound. And I tested my room and made it perfect for that. And you don't get that when you're watching on a desktop computer or a laptop computer. I mean, you can, but I don't think most people go to that extent. And I'm pretty sure you haven't either. Does it matter to you? And in which case does spatial audio really matter?
Yeah. Maybe this is, and again, this is more highfalutin conceptual talk. Maybe it's being a magician or whatever, but if there is one thing being a magician taught me, it's that it does not matter what you actually said on stage. It does not matter what you actually did on stage. The moment the show is over, the human brain is a phenomenal Photoshop engine of smoothing over memories and collapsing things and making it very, very simple. So there are movies that I suppose if I had to testify before Congress or whatever, I would have a good guess about whether or not I saw them in a theater or on my screen or, whatever. But what I'll really be latching on to is how did I feel while watching them? Now, I do know that in general, way, way back before we started doing this show, back in my pirating days when I would watch like telescreen bootlegs, where somebody would have a camcorder or whatever, I would think, I don't think that movie was very good. And then later I would see the actual movie in a high fidelity experience. And I would be like, oh my God, that movie is brilliant. It was the garbage way I watched it that affected that outcome. And I suppose that's why I'm saying that once you reach a certain level of good enough, that's part of the reason that I'm fairly skeptical about the importance of 4K, 8K, and beyond, because the memory will not know anything other than the very quick heuristic of, I felt this way during this moment. This explosion really took me into the moment.
I guess that's the thing, is like, if the higher resolution impacts your emotional reaction.
Correct.
Or if the bass from your surround sound makes you feel the fear, that will stick with you, but you won't remember why.
Correct. And as a matter of fact, your brain will on purpose, because as heuristic driven hunter-gatherer animals, mammals, placental mammals, in fact, it's the brain's job to simplify. The moment a memory is made, the brain goes to work saying like, all right, let's there's a lot of detail here that doesn't need to be there. Let's just remember how you felt, how good it was, how you were blown away by this moment or that moment. All right, go.
That's why we usually scream midway through Cordkillers, to make our audience feel something.
Yeah, I felt like that was a dare, and I'm going to just walk right on past it.
All right, let's talk about what to watch and Under Surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
The Eternals has a full trailer out. I have to say, I really like this trailer a lot better than the teasers. The teasers were fine at like, oh, that's what it's going to look like. That's who that person will be, etc. But this lays out a little more of the premise of the movie. A little more if you're wondering, like, where have the Eternals been this whole time? And it comes to theaters November 5th. The rest would you just go watch the trailer. Some people don't like to watch trailers for spoilers and such, but I thought this trailer served a good purpose in saying, this is why you need to find out the story of the Eternals.
This trailer does a thing that needs to be done, which is answer a question. You know, where have the Eternals been this whole time? It is unfair for me to judge it based on this trailer, but let me judge it anyway, because that's our job. I don't care for the explanation. The explanation of it's the Prime Directive. It's our job to.
You don't care for the fact of the explanation, or you don't care for the explanation they gave, the justification.
In general, in these types of stories, the question, why didn't you do something? There are two answers. One is, I didn't know to do something, like my powers hadn't awakened or whatever. The other answer tends to be, the rules are I can't. In general, I hate the rules are I can't. It makes me instantly like you a little bit less. And yes, that goes for you, Jean-Luc Picard. What I would have preferred is the awakening motif. Like, they didn't even know they were Eternals. Like, they couldn't perceive, like, hey man, unless it's these.
Although that would set all the comic book fans off, because it's definitely
that's not what they do.
Right.
Yeah, well, we've sworn to not interfere annoys me, and almost certainly the movie will fix this in some way, but it actively, it was a half point back for me.
What about you?
I haven't seen the trailer. I've seen the teasers. Phase 4 isn't really doing much for me on this. I feel like Endgame was the perfect. I can stop watching again for a while, because I was a comic nerd forever when it was like weird to have a Captain America shirt. Now like everyone can have one, and I saw everything I wanted to see. So now I'm just waiting for like the characters I want to see, like the X-Men show up at some point, or actually mutants in general, how they're going to explain that. So now I feel like I'm in the comic shop. I got like 20 something issues, 20 different titles. I don't have to watch this. The Eternals are always weird in the books.
Yep.
And this is going to be weird in the movies, and they really
that's
have
so funny.
a big difference.
But before Tom ruins this moment for us, Iyaz,
Okay.
I'm so glad you said it first, because that's exactly how I feel. Like, I don't know. Like, if you took out the word Eternals, I would swear to you this is a DC movie, and I had no interest in it.
Ooh. That's rough.
I mean, look at the color palette. Look at the dour everything.
Everybody just pause while the audience gasps and points and goes, ooh. Okay. I am super excited because I read and loved the Eternals in comics, which is not true for most of the Marvel universe so far. Most of the Marvel universe is like, I don't really know anything about Iron Man, but all right, I'll watch it. And it's been fun. So this is one of the first times like, oh no, I already know and love this story. I can't wait to see how they integrate it into the MCU, which makes me think that is a challenge for the MCU. Is what the first challenge was. Well, there are the Marvel fans who are like, yeah, let me see what they do with Iron Man. And then there's the people who aren't Marvel fans. How do you bring them in? They met that challenge. They brought everybody in. Now the challenge is, okay, but Marvel fans aren't fans of every property. So how do you keep them for the properties that they look at and like, I don't know, it feels like a DC thing to me.
And to be clear, it's not. It's entirely possible that they pull this off. I mean, obviously they have all of the talent and incredible production and so on. And the feeling I'm feeling is a similar level of skepticism that I had going into Guardians of the Galaxy. Turns out, you and I saw it together, the highest of fives.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite moments in our friendship was
Yes.
having seen that right next
and
to each
being
other.
blown
Yeah.
away. And who knows, maybe that's what we'll get right here. But this particular trailer did very little to make me feel like that was likely.
On the low end, this will end up coming off as, why didn't we help with Thanos? Not our job. Look, our job description says deviants. Sorry. That's, sorry, I was on my lunch break.
I would love it if like half the Eternals were like, oh, not our job, huh? Couldn't be bothered. I lost
On the
5
positive
whole
side-
years.
On the positive side, it will be, we always knew that if we took our eye off the deviants for 1 second, even to help with Thanos, that the deviants would have taken advantage and we had to be on guard. And I'm hoping it's on that side of things of like, we would have loved to help, but we were assigned. It's not how it came across in the trailer, I know, but that's kind of where I would like it to go of like,
Right.
It would have been risky for us to help. And we thought you had it. So we were fine. And it turns out.
And before people write us at cordkillers@gmail.com, let me say I'm not placing a bet that it will not be good. I'm just expressing how the trailer made me feel. But definitely write us at cordkillers@gmail.com.
Apple TV Plus released a trailer for the forthcoming series based on The Foundation, the Isaac Asimov novels, arriving September 24th.
Tom,
Yes, Brian.
I've never read the Foundation series.
I know, and I don't think you should feel shame for that. You can't read everything.
Hey, well, okay, weird diss on the Foundation series, but but in general, that my attitude is watch the movie first because look, man, watching David Lynch's Dune is what led me to Dune. The books only get better universally. Watching Jurassic Park is what got me to Jurassic Park and so on. So having said all of that, I am very, very excited for the visuals and for the story. What I saw spelled out for by reputation, the Foundation series sounds complicated and long and sci-fi nerd times 12. What I saw in this trailer, simple, gorgeous, amazing. Like, I get it. Dude has it figured out. Pretty sure he knows where everything's going to go. Wants to create a foundation for the next gen. I get it. I already got it. Got it. I'm in. 100% in.
Iyaz, have you ever read The Foundation? And whether you have or not, are you excited for this series?
I haven't read it. I did watch the trailer. I'm excited about it. The thing I'm trying not to forget is that it's on Apple TV. I have a blind spot for Apple TV. I forget the shows exist there, even though I really like Ted Lasso. I just forget that Apple TV is a thing. I just need to write that down some more.
Bryce, had you read the book?
Iyaz. Yeah. Apple TV is a thing. Go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna check in with Bryce because it was Bryce that brought it to my attention first.
No, I haven't read the book, but the trailer looks good.
Yeah,
that's great. Nobody's read the book. I'm sure Isaac Asimov's very happy about that. A trailer is out for Star Wars Visions, an anthology show coming to Disney Plus September 22nd. 7 animation studios in Japan made 9 episodes that will be released in Japanese and English.
Do you think we're going to see many of the expanded universe novel short story ideas surface in here, or it's just going to be?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell, but from the look, these are all original stories. These are new independent stories told about there's a city that had to defend a lightsaber and they don't know what it is or why, and it's just out somewhere. We don't know whose lightsaber it is, if it is even anybody that's important. And I'm like, that story sounds fascinating. I want that story.
My gut just says wait to find out if it's good. Like everything about it, animated neutral about, anime neutral about, Star Wars increasingly neutral about. Like I'm just waiting to hear, is it good? What about you? Where are you at?
I think I'm going to be forced to watch this by my wife and son, and I'm going to hope that it's amazing. The animation looks really good. I would like to see this world in that kind of style. So maybe they'll be able to do things that we just couldn't do in live action. And yes, there are CG shows, I know that, but this is a different style. I really want to see if they can do more fun things with Star Wars, because it's a smaller scale. You're not really worried about like, we're going to ruin the mythos. People are going to like never watch our movies again. It's like, nah, Disney Plus. Maybe it'll be a little riskier, and I'm really hoping they do that.
Yeah, and these are good studios from what I could tell. So it seems like it's in good hands. NBCU content head Susan Rovner was speaking at a conference in Edinburgh and said Peacock will make more true crime series, more global productions, and NBC will develop more limited series more often. Peacock is co-developing The Undeclared War with UK's Channel 4, a show called Wolf Like Me with Australia's Stan. And Deadline asked Rovner at the conference if Peacock would make an Office reboot. After first saying no comment, Rovner added, "Whenever Greg Daniels wants to do one, we're standing by." Daniels has previously said that it's not impossible that they would revisit The Office, but he's working on 2 other shows right now, The Upload and Space Force.
I feel like the misdirect here is reboot focus, when really I think we all love those characters enough, and they're all still enough in their prime that, like, tales of everyone who, their lives after The Office would, like, it might be something like that. But I would be highly skeptical of a reboot of The Office.
Yeah, I think that just gets people excited about Peacock, which has all the old episodes of The Office. So if we might have a reboot, it'll be here, because who wants... Look, Upload's really good. Watch Upload on Amazon Prime. And also, look, I wrote a note. Look, see? Apple TV is a thing.
Apple TV
did it.
Don't forget. Yeah, good job. Okay, so if Peacock wants to capitalize on the fact that they seem to be getting more engagement with The Office than Netflix was getting, which is what they claim, then it has to be what you're saying, Brian. It has to be a continuing story with the characters and storylines they love somehow. That doesn't have to even be in Scranton, but it has to be related to that. So I wonder if you could do another Office somewhere that's related. Maybe it's another Office in Dunder Mifflin. And so those characters can come and go, but you update it, right? It's the modern Office in modern storytelling. I'm very skeptical that there's what they could do with this that would actually capitalize on the enthusiasm for the original, though.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably a temptation to introduce a new cast of characters, call it like a Miami branch or whatever, and then one at a time, each of the characters makes a cameo for one episode or whatever. But it's like, I would much rather see, I would watch a 3-episode arc of Kevin bass fishing for, because he retired early due to a leg injury or something, and then a different arc. I don't know. I feel like there's so many more interesting
you run
things.
into the aftermath Joey danger when you do stuff like that, where it's like, oh, it's just kind of like the original, but not as good.
Not if you make it like an anthology and it truly is those people and the end of each of their tales.
Is it lower stakes? Is it lower stakes because it's streaming? If you do have a 3-episode thing about Kevin instead of a 2-season order of Joey, which had to follow up a giant thing right on the heels of Friends, Office has been off of television for a really long time. So if you did revisit it, even with the Kevin episode, like let's say all the episodes about him making chili, and it's just a cooking show in a totally different format, and starting the guy who played Kevin, I think it'd be fine on Peacock as a library title. You could probably revisit what's her name, Angela and her cats. Be a whole other thing.
It's fine, but does it get you anything? Does it return what your investment is on?
What it gets you is in the news. So let's say
Maybe.
for example, let's say they release a 1 hour unironic. Kevin is now a mid-level YouTube live streamer, and it's just straight up a very funny 1 hour with a really good chili recipe, and then everybody goes out and they make Kevin's chili and so on. That takes nothing away. It's making no promises and it's making no big bets, and it's fine if it doesn't do well. Beyond that, it gets tricky, but I like your idea, Iyaz, of lower stakes bet, because that's the reason that Joey launched and then cratered, is because all of the stakes of the world, it had to be the next mega franchise. It had to be Frasier and not the Tortellis or whatever the other one was.
But then why do it?
Again, to get yourself in the news, because
There's plenty of ways to get yourself in the news that are less costly than that.
No, that's probably the most affordable way, because what do you need? A camera, $10,000.
It also feels like wasting an
Kevin.
opportunity. We have the Office property, and this is what we're going to do with it. Like, okay, maybe you do that, but that can't be the thing you do. That's not going to get you bang for your buck. Is what I imagine them saying.
Substitute any other property besides The Office, and it sounds increasingly silly. We have Cheers. Why are we not following up on what happened to Kirstie Alley? We have we have Night. Well, I guess they're doing that with Night Court. Never mind. I take it all back.
These sound like things
forget
I
everything I
would think
said.
Here's the thing. These are things that sound interesting, and I would read about them and not watch.
Huh. Well, let's put it this way. Think Moneyball, right? Very, very low stakes for a scratch-off lottery ticket of a 1 hour special Kevin's Chili Cook-Off. Costs you less than $50,000. Practically pocket change. If it happens to be written, you find the next James Gunn out there, or you try to find the next James Gunn. If it hits huge, and statistically speaking, its value is well worth the pocket change that it costs. Whereas doing a Joey or a Florida branch version of The Office is too much of an investment, and it becomes too big to fail, and you have to get it right. You don't have to get Kevin's Chili Cook-Off right.
Also, think Moneyball, and think that the Oakland A's haven't been to the World Series since 1990.
Is that good or bad?
It gets you so far.
Well, you know what?
Win the big.
It gets you exactly as far as Peacock needs to go, not as far as NBC needs to go.
I think that's where I'm leaving your argument. Is that I think NBC is going to need to push Peacock to win the World Series. I don't think it's good enough for Peacock to make the playoffs every year.
Oh, that's
all right.
interesting.
Now we're into sports metaphors, and we should talk about a thing Peacock is actually doing. Peacock has greenlighted a series based on Field of Dreams to be run by Michael Schur.
All right, look, I don't know who brought baseball into this, but all of a sudden we're all about baseball. See, it's funny because
Michael Schur helped create The Office in the United States, Parks and Rec, and The Good Place. This feels like an interesting thing, especially if you don't realize baseball had a Field of Dreams special game where they brought two of the major league teams and played in Iowa, and everybody seemed to love it. So there's more interest in that property than there used to be.
Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting counterexample, because I would say that the money heat around that Field of Dreams franchise is pretty stale at this point. But the heat around a mystical, magical, well-beloved American institution from the guy who brought us The Good Place, those all sound like winning combination.
Iyaz?
I just want to know if Kevin Costner's coming back. I mean, Superman's Earth Dad.
He went to the baseball game. He did the opening announcement at the actual game.
I saw the games. I saw the game, that is. I've read about this. I was like, why is this happening? What's going on? And then ESPN would play the actual movie right afterwards. But, okay, I'm really curious what the format of the show is. Are we going to like do a deep dive on one of the ghosts, like when they were alive? What are we doing? What are the episodes about? Because I'm really,
Yeah, I have no idea.
really,
But
like, are
that's
they
where
talking
I'm
about
glad
what
it's
this-
Michael Schur, because if you
Yeah,
told
it
me
could be
like
really
there's
fun.
going to be a sitcom about philosophy, I'd have been like, good luck with that. And they pulled it off.
there could be something good in this. Michael Schur does some good work,
Yeah.
minus that one episode of The Office.
And Netflix's live action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop has a date. It's going to make its 10 episode season premiere November 19th. Actually, all 10 episodes will come out this once, Netflix style. No trailer yet, just that date. They did post some stills from the show, though. And don't forget, composer Yoko Kanno has returned to do the soundtrack for this. And the original director of the anime Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro Watanabe, consulted on the show as well. So if you're worried that it will abandon the principles of the original, that might help you feel a little better.
Dude, I was shocked at the level of backlash that people got. Like, it was nothing but fear on Twitter, where people are like, why would you ruin a good thing? We liked it as a cartoon. We already have a live action one. It's called Firefly. To which I replied, yes, and Firefly was very, very good, and I would like more of that.
Right. You don't want more Firefly? Or wait, what are you saying?
Look, I understand. I used to be you jaded cynic out there. Somebody who's afraid that a thing that you love is suddenly going to be a punchline. Somebody who loved The Last Airbender, and then now all of a sudden people think of a movie that's not very good. I used to think the same thing and about Batman. Which one is the Batman Begins? Batman. Wait. Like 3 minutes after the last Batman, we got the Nolan trilogy started, and I was like, "There's no way! There's no way!" And I did the credits rolled, and I was like, "No way!" If there's a chance this is good, and it gives you the things you loved about Cowboy Bebop, then you are only a true fan if you believe in trying. You should always swing for the fences, and I have nothing but support for this.
We turn to jaded cynic Iyaz Akhtar.
Well, if they stream it, Schwood'll watch.
There was the previous story. It's not even this story.
I had to do it. I'm sorry.
All right, we got a few other notes here. HBO's The White Lotus collected 1.9 million viewers for its series finale last Sunday. Second series has been approved by HBO. Roddenberry Entertainment is working on an official biopic of Gene Roddenberry's life, covering life before and after the original Star Trek, up to and apparently including his death. Of course, we mentioned at the top of the show, Morning Show coming back September 17th on Apple TV Plus, which, Iyaz, don't forget, is a thing. HBO announced a return month for Succession, a return month. They just tweeted Succession, October. So hopefully a more precise date will follow. Peacock has not approved the Punky Brewster reboot for a second season. Netflix ordered a third season of Never Have I Ever. Netflix released the first photos of Elizabeth Debicki as Princess Diana in season 5 of The Crown, as well as pictures of Dominic West as Prince Charles. Showtime's series on the rise of Uber called Super Pumped has cast Hank Azaria in the role of Tim Cook. And Fast and Furious 10 got a date. It's scheduled to debut in theaters April 7th, 2023.
I am shocked that there are so many wonderful properties out there that I'm not particularly connected with, that none of those really caused a spike. Iyaz, did any of those stand out to you?
Well, Punky Power is dead. I mean, I can't stand this. Look, Peacock put money into this. So if Peacock can put money into Punky Brewster like 30 years after it happened, I think Kevin's cookie Chickoff, that's what's happening. Cook-off is going to happen.
Kevin's chili cook-off is going to be amazing. I'm 100% in with you.
Now I'm in. I'm watching it.
Yep.
I'm going to fund it. That's what's going to happen.
If they call it Kevin's Clicky Chickoff, I'm in.
Clucky Chickoff is even better. Let's go with that.
All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Iyaz Akhtar, what have you been watching these days?
Well, since I've been speaking so well, let's just go to me first. All right, so I've been watching Hacks on HBO Max. Now, that rhymes, and that's just the way it is. So the thing is, this show I was really dreading. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got Gene Smart, who I love in everything. And I thought, okay, this is about a Las Vegas comedian who is towards the end of her career, and there's going to be this new comedian helping her, writing, and she's like either like very... So I thought we're going to get really like snarky, bad jokes and this kind of sitcom trope kind of stuff. Not at all. This show is incredibly smart, subverts your expectations at every damn turn in a good way. The comedy is actually legitimately funny. Something I've had an issue with Miss Maisel, where I'm like, the stand-up is no longer funny. You can argue with me about that later. The jokes are funny on Hacks. I really, really like the show. It's far too short. We ran through the whole season within like 2 days. I can't recommend it more. Hacks on HBO Max. Go watch it.
What's funny is by the end of your review, I was sold. And I opened my mouth to say, and where is that? And then you said Hacks on HBO Max. And I was like, oh, that's right. They rhyme. So, which something that sounded dumb suddenly is brilliant. And I will not forget it.
You're not the first person to tell me this about Hacks. I'm definitely going to have to check it out. Brian, what about you?
You know what? I went back and I watched The Game. I believe it's David Fincher's first directorial debut. It came out in, what did we figure out? 97? Is that right, Bryce?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 97, and it is wild to watch now because in 1997, 2 years later, we would be having The Matrix, where everything would be computers and cell phones. This is all landlines, and it looks almost like Wall Street or a David Mamet movie from the 80s or whatever. It's very slow. Hoo boy, does that fellow likes hose down sets and night shots. It takes place in San Francisco. I've only seen it once before, and I remember thinking while I was in college, I think this might be dumb. I'm a little bit bored. And then at the end, I was like, no, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. And I watched it again, expecting to see something different because by now I love David Fincher. By now I'm familiar with the conceit of the story and all that. And I spent the whole time thinking, I think this is kind of dumb, maybe boring. And then at the end, I was like, no, it's quite good. And then, Tom, at the very, very end, there was a moment so good, I pressed pause and took a picture of the television because the very last minute of the movie is this. The House of Shields.
What?
In San Francisco.
The birthplace of Scam School?
You can see, look at this, Tom. You can see that box there is where I deliver the first opening and introduction to the show. That window to the right of the word house is where the pilot is shot. And it was just like, what? It was.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It was a sign of like, oh, you like it now? Great.
Yeah. We've been waiting, Brian.
That's awesome. Well, I want a quick mention that we binged on The White Lotus. We didn't get it done in time to actually watch the finale on Sunday, but we did watch all of it. And it was a slow burn. I kept waiting for the thing that would make me go, oh my gosh, I love it. And I never got it. But by the time it was done, we were like, yeah, that was satisfying. That was a satisfying, well-told story. I kind of guessed what was going to happen near the end, but not until the last episode. I thought The White Lotus is worth a watch, especially because it's 7 episodes. So it's not a huge investment of your time. And it's a fun murder mystery with really interesting and deep characters. I also watched Clue, which Eileen came out at one point when and saw me watching it. And she was like, you're watching Clue? I'm like, yeah. It was great. You're right, Brian. It's a period piece. So in 1985, it was a movie set in the 1950s, I think 1958. And I think that helps because it doesn't look like the 80s. It looks like a depiction of the 50s, even though it doesn't look entirely like the 50s. The cast is stellar, and it's all in that house. So it's all just a murder mystery where you're trying to run around, tell the clues. And of course, famously, they have alternate endings. It was a blast. I thought it actually felt quite modern in its storytelling, considering about when it was put out.
The pacing is just whip smart, rapid fire, vaudeville style. The dark comedy, the pitch black humor is amazing. There are moments that will live forever and that people will reference, not even knowing they're from a movie that was based on a board game. I'm thinking of an improv line that was not in the script that was flames on the side
Madeline
of
Kahn
my
is
face.
If anything, they didn't make good enough use of having Madeline Kahn in that cast because
So
she's
good.
such a genius. But they had so many geniuses in the cast that was part of the problem. I think it could use some updating here and there for 2021, but overall, yeah, I enjoyed
but
it.
Tim Curry, what a
So
gem.
good. So
what
good.
a gem. Nonstop, like a Buster Keaton reincarnation. He was amazing.
Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, we got an email from Steve. Steve writes, "Hello all. I've got a recommendation for a documentary series on Amazon Prime Video. It's called Clarkson's Farm. It's about Jeremy Clarkson. You might know him from the Grand Tour or formerly the Top Gear. Top Gear. It's Top Gear. It's about Jeremy Clarkson giving up cars and buying a farm in the Cotswold area of the West Midlands, England, and becoming a farmer. It's amusing as he knows zip about it. The people he hires to navigate, to help him navigate, are very interesting, and as well as getting all the equipment he needs to farm. Steve mentions this was probably all bought with Jeff Bezos' money because this is also a Prime Video show, and the weather, obviously plays havoc with everything. So Steve says it's very enjoyable. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, there are 13 episodes of Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime Video now, and they have approved a second season, so you will get more of this. I know that one of the folks on our crew is got so into this show that she went and started watching Top Gear and the Grand Tour because she really liked Clarkson that much. So some good recommendations. Any interest from any of the panel on Clarkson's Farm?
If this is a character-driven thing, because everybody who has ever pitched me on Top Gear anything, it's always been about the cars, and I'm like, well, then yeah, I'm sure I'll get around to it. If the focus is the people, then I'm in.
Whoever told you that about Top Gear had it backwards, right? I mean, the idea is that they're big personalities.
Yeah,
not so much the cars. I mean, that's even with the Grand Tour. Anyway, but yes, it's the idea is big personalities, especially Jeremy Clarkson. So check that out. That's Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime Video. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, email it to us, please. Cordkillers@gmail.com.
Hey, folks, you should get in the doghouse. And when I say that, I mean a doghouse system PC, right, Brian?
Yeah, look, here's something that I think is for reals about to happen is everybody hunkered down for the pandemic, and now we're all realizing, wow, our computers are old and garbage, and you're going to have to buy a new computer at some point. Why not buy a computer with unparalleled customer service, top-of-the-line gear, excellent prices, and the kind of company that when you have a problem, you end up talking to the CEO who overnights you a replacement computer. That's the kind of service you get from our friends at doghousesystems.com/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout. These are the folks who straight up just set us up with 5 digits of computer equipment that powers everything here. It's been years, and I still don't know how many systems we've sold for them. But I'm ever eternally thankful for the fact that they believed in us, and I believe in them, and you should believe in them as well.
All right, folks, let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Comcast and Viacom CBS are teaming up on a streaming service in Europe that will sadly not be called Paracock or P-Mount. No, Comcast owns Sky, which is a much more recognizable brand in Europe, so the service will be called Sky Showtime. It will collect movies and TV shows from Showtime, Nickelodeon, Paramount Pictures, Paramount Plus Originals, Sky Studios, Universal Pictures, and Peacock for a European service.
And before you say anything, yes, Sky Showtime is real clunky, but it's less clunky than Sky Nick Para Tours Plus Studios.
Versal P.
Versal P. Yeah, exactly. Amazon's ad-supported free service, IMDb TV, is now available on Comcast's Xfinity Flex and Xfinity X1 set-top boxes. This is the first pay TV box IMDb has landed on. Good on them. I think that this goes back to our, that growth of ad-supported, free, instantly available, the thing is on services.
Free Guy was the first Disney movie in a while to be available only in theaters, and it brought in $112 million worldwide in its first 2 weeks, $58.9 million of that domestic. The movie Reminiscence, however, starring Hugh Jackman, opened simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max and brought in $2 million. Now, Variety attributes the small receipts in part to the difficulty in getting older audience to come see a movie. but also noted the movie didn't get positive buzz before release. So it may be they were targeting the wrong demo, or it may be the movie just wasn't good enough.
Hugh Jackman is one of those names where it's like I'll by default give it a try almost always. But the first time I knew the movie was out was as I was walking into the movie theater to see Free Guy,
which was before we showed the thing with my head in it, right?
Oh, right. You weren't here last week.
I wasn't there for that.
explains why
Yeah.
Brian is saying, I
You
haven't heard
weren't
about
on,
this movie
yeah.
we talked about like for 20 minutes last week.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Now I want to see what the thing is that had your head in it. T-Mobile will give some new and existing customers a year of Apple TV Plus for free starting August 25th. If you have an existing free trial of Apple TV Plus, the T-Mobile deal will stack on top of it, not replace it. Which, again, I think all of this is back to like right from the moment they announced Apple TV Plus. Our take seemed to be that this is a value add to sell hardware, really, and to secure their spot, right?
Although this doesn't necessarily sell hardware for Apple, but it probably is that T-Mobile's paying them for this as a way to sell subscriptions.
But it does secure their spot in the pantheon of places where good television exists.
Yeah. Iyaz, do you have a T-Mobile?
I do at T-Mobile.
T-Mobile's the thing, Iyaz. You gotta write that down too.
Yeah, don't
I actually
forget
know
that
I paid them.
you can actually get Apple TV Plus with your T-Mobile subscription.
You have
That's
Apple
fantastic.
TV Plus.
Well, actually,
So I can get it if I'm an existing customer. Like, so I do exist.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, starting
Okay.
Wednesday, you can add it if you're, I think, Magenta or Magenta Plus.
see, that's where
That
they
will
get you
exist.
because I have an older T-Mobile plan that won't get me this.
Oh.
This
Yeah, I think
for
I'm also
T-Mobile.
grandfathered in.
Yeah,
So
like,
update your
rather
why
than
not
do
update your
something-
plan?
because I got a good plan, Tom. I get upgrades.
Yeah, dude.
Have
It's
you
the
seen the new
maroon.
plans? I've updated my plan every time they give one because it's always been better than my old plan. Now maybe your old plan is much better. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got like the first jump, so I can get a new phone like every 6 months, and I don't because they only come out with a new phone
nice.
every year. But I've always because every couple of years I think, oh man, they got new plans maybe, but
So you've got an old plan that doesn't have all the perks of the new plan that gives you a perk that you don't use.
There's a certain voice that I recognize, which is Tom is about to serve someone. And it's like in the first two words of that sentence, I was like, "Ooh, I know this, Tom."
Yes, Tom, because when I bring in a phone, the inspection process is not as stringent, and my mother uses Android, so she could get a new phone every 6 months, but she only gets a new phone every 2 years because that's all that she.
I'm so glad
Hey,
it's
a
not
quick
me.
catch up on the whole AT&T TV thing. Earlier this year, AT&T simplified everything to be either DirecTV if it's satellite, or AT&T Universe if it's cable, or AT&T TV if it's any kind of streaming. Then AT&T spun out all of its TV delivery businesses into a new company that it co-owns with an equity company. That company is called DirecTV. Caught up? Good. As a result of all of that, it's now renaming AT&T TV and Uverse to DirecTV Stream. And the actual news here is that happens on August 26th. Nothing else is changing about the service except its name yet.
Man, I'm giving up on my free branding advice to all these big old dumb stupid.
Seriously, right?
Like I'm just giving up because it's like now I get it. It's like no, we're just going to make a bunch of nonsense word salad names and mix everything up until everyone's so confused they're as annoyed as you are. Then we're going to suddenly go back to singular. Screw you guys. I'm done.
Singular phone.
Exactly right. It's NBC Universal wrote a letter calling for
An open letter. That should say an open letter. I apologize.
I was about to say if it's anonymous, then NBC Universal wrote an open letter calling for measurement independence. The company called for alternative means of tracking viewers across linear TV and digital platforms. It said that it is in the process of building its own interoperable measurement solutions from a broad network of trusted partners. This sounds like they're just throwing shade at Nielsen and saying, why can't you be better, Nielsen? We'll have to make our own Nielsen. We're going to take our Nielsen and go home.
I mean, yes, but I think it's also Nielsen doesn't do all the things we need in the modern world yet. And Nielsen's like, We'll get there. My gosh, we're old. Give us a minute. We're out of breath.
If you're serious about all this, why not just do it? Why are you writing open letters?
They are. No, that's the part. They're in the process of building. NBC's building its own thing.
Why are you writing open letters about it?
To get people to talk about their own thing, so that people go.
You know how many people work for
maybe I should sign
NBC
up.
Universal, right? They got someone who can write a letter.
You got me again,
I mean, they could
NBC.
have just done Kevin's Clucking Chicken YouTube, but instead they put an open letter out.
Okay. Touche, sir.
All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. I tell you what, man, I am so happy that we have Derek in the audience because he is in the advertising industry and really helps us understand it. Wrote in and pointed out that TV, both linear and advanced TV, like CTV and over the top, is still a popular format because it is a lean back experience that allows for full video and full sound, usually on a larger screen. Audio, like terrestrial radio, streaming audio, and podcasts, are similar, minus the video. But that constant repetition and disruption in sound and sight is exactly what some advertisers want and find effective. Think of how everyone can hum the Farmers Insurance and Liberty Mutual Insurance jingle, or how Microsoft Teams and Slack ads always start off with their notification sounds and end with their logos. This is all done for specific goals that are being measured for effectiveness, whether it's brand awareness, recall, competitive share of voice, etc. So if you're being annoyed by a repeating ad, this is me talking now, not Derek, that means it's working. Back to Derek. The funny thing is, several networks in linear have been trying to reduce ad load in schedules so that each ad that airs becomes more effective. Yet, at least for me, I actually swear YouTube and other ad-supported video streaming and social platforms have been cramming in more and more ads. So broadcast TV and cable getting fewer ads, maybe YouTube getting more, maybe not. Digital doesn't quite run on the same schedule. It's far easier for them to add as many ads as they want or think their viewers are willing to bear. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, yes, advertising has and continues to evolve. New platforms and formats constantly come in, though not all of them end up sticking. The older, more traditional stuff shouldn't be discounted either. The challenge, or at least for me in my 9 to 5, is to find the right balance between them to hit my clients' goals.
Yeah, dude, I have a whole, Bryce has seen it a few times, a whole hour and a half, 2 hour marketing message based on exactly this. Derek, hit me up. I'll tell you the big notes.
Then we got Josh wrote in and said, "Hi team, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the decline, or rather the change in public perception of fine movies. Does everyone expect only movies being rated 8 to 10 on a scale and everything else is bad? This is kind of the trend I see in recommendations in most places, and it could be purely anecdotal, but I feel that movies that were fine made most of the 80s and 90s nostalgia, like True Lies, Die Hard, Independence Day, or Air Force One. None of these are artistic masterpieces, but darn good fun. There are movies like those being made these days, but they always seem to slip through the radar, like Blood Red Sky, Infinite, 13 Hours, etc., which fall in the same category of good fun and don't bring your brain movies. I personally love watching these kinds of movies after a hectic work week and don't need to focus too much on the movie and just enjoy. Again, this may just be my personal prejudice, but would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you, Josh."
So this used to be the reason I didn't care for the ratings of Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if you have any affiliation with them, but
I mean, my health insurance is paid for them, but other than that.
Okay, good. But specifically because what Rotten Tomatoes, 99%, I remember the example I always give is that Finding Nemo and Fight Club were out at the same time. Fight Club had a 65% positive rate because it was highly polarizing. Some people didn't like the violence and they thought it glorified bro culture or whatever, when in fact it was a scathing indictment of it. Whereas everybody agreed that those fish were pretty, thank you Pixar, and got 99%. I would say that Fight Club is a better movie than Finding Nemo. But I would say that if you're looking for fine movies, and nowadays, as a parent, as a somebody 20 years older, I am oftentimes looking for fine movies, and I think Rotten Tomatoes is great for that. Like I'm more interested in a 99% Rotten Tomatoes rated movie that'll be. I know for sure I ain't gonna feel like the sucker if I bring my kids to it or go see it myself. What about you, Iyaz?
I think you make a good point about bringing everybody to the movies. You really want to make sure that the investment you're putting forth in the tickets, the concessions and everything is worth it. Like back in the old days, the 80s and 90s, what are you looking for? Like newspaper clippings about this, which disappear really fast. Maybe see the critic talk about it on the local news, perhaps. You're not getting a ton of information there. So maybe you're more apt to try a riskier thing. But now, if you have, quote unquote, perfect information, you're going to be a little bit more selective. So, I mean, I love a terrible movie. I mean, Lifetime Movie Channel and me, we're like this. So I watch a bunch of crap all the time. So I love not the best stuff all the time. So I will say that I think that what Brian was hitting on is actually the real key point. When you're talking about bringing people to a theater, that is an investment because it's a lot of money, it's time, you can't leave, and you're going to be paying an arm and a leg for food. So I think that's why people are being selective.
Oh, speaking of that, our next email from Chad in Columbus, Ohio says, my family, me, 2 teenage boys, went to the theater to see Free Guy, first movie in a long time. My kids have been interested in seeing, and I wanted to get out of the house. We went early to avoid the crowds on Saturday morning and were 3 of 8 people in the theater, so we were able to spread out pretty well. Imagine my surprise when the concession stand refused to take my order. They wanted you to navigate to their webpage using precognition. I pretended not to have a smartphone with me because I wanted to see what they would do. I didn't push it too hard, but they chose to lose a sale rather than let me give them money for their overpriced popcorn. I thought concessions were the lifeblood of the theaters. I guess it's not anymore. Well, I think Chad knows it is. But yeah, I have been to the theaters a couple of times recently, and that was not at all the situation at either one. Brian, have you had an experience similar to Chad, or is it more like mine?
Not only did I have the same experience note for note, but it was for the same movie, and it was at what has previously been a trusted theater to me. We showed up 30 minutes early specifically because I just wanted to sit and hang out with my daughter and chit chat and watch something and have a beer or whatever. And instead, walk on in. It's like, hey, concessions, what do we do? And they're like, you sit in your chair and we're going to come to you. 30 minutes later, I sure did watch a lot of stupid ads for like full on 15-second web ads. And then finally the movie started and I got up and left. I'm like, hey, they told me to. They're like, oh yeah, no, we'll send someone over. Go back. So then they went back there. What do you want? You're like, I would like a pint of beer. And then you're like, I would like popcorn. Okay. And then 30 minutes into the movie, we got it. It was garbage. They clearly are not prepared for people, human beings,
for a
to
global
come back.
pandemic that has disrupted their entire business model. What is wrong with them?
They have had a year and a half to prepare for. And by the way, this is a new company that bought the destroyed old company. They bought it.
I think that's key.
Presumably because they expected people to start showing up at some point. No excuses, no forgiveness.
I think what's going on, because my experience at an AMC theater was they have a different situation. There, they had a menu up. You didn't have to go to your phone to do anything, although you could have, and there was a separate line for that. But if you wanted to order in person, you walk up, tell them what they want. They took your credit card, contactless, like they held the thing out, you stuck it in, put in your code, etc. Then you picked up your food in a separate location. That's where their process broke down because that location was overwhelmed. I think all of these places are developing procedures from scratch that they haven't tested. And because of that, they're not working. Now, I'm not asking you to forgive them, Brian, but I'm explaining that's why it's so bad in so many different places. It's not because theaters are like, we don't care. It's because they are unprepared for the challenge. They don't have I don't know if it's the right people or the right skills or whatever, to change how they've done all of this. And like with any software release, you don't really know how it's going to work until you get people coming out. And if you haven't load tested it and suddenly Free Guy is really popular, although that's not the case with Chad here, I could see that exposing problems in the system that weren't apparent before.
100%.
Especially when they choose to bring stuff to you. I've been in AMC dine-in theaters where they had a problem bringing stuff to you because that's a very complex system. Again, I'm not trying to ask you to forgive them for the complex system because they promised to do it, but you have to be able to do it. It's not as easy as just saying you'll do it.
Cordkillers@gmail.com. Give us your testimonials about your experience. I must admit, Tom, that a teacher can believe in a child, but ultimately still has to grade the test by whether or not they got the answers right.
That's absolutely fair. The teacher may have sucked.
Wait, hold on. Wait, that's me you're talking about.
Sorry. No, not in this case, obviously.
Iyaz, where can we see more of your stuff?
All right, so I'm going to say, do yourself a favor. Do not watch White Lotus for 6 hours for it to click. Go to youtube.com/CNET. Watch a ton of videos there in less than 6 hours. Everything will click very quickly. Tons of videos there. So go to youtube.com/CNET because they've got great stuff. Not like the White Lotus. Don't watch the White Lotus. Tom, I'm hoping that episode 5 makes it click because we're 4 in and it's not clicking, man.
Yeah, that's because
Ain't
you're not
clicking.
watching CNET over at youtube.com/CNET.
Yeah, obviously, as you just said, if you want it to click, you go watch your own videos on CNET.
Clicks there.
He turns on his own videos and he's like, see, this guy gets it right at the
man.
beginning. I like him.
Hey, when I get recommended my own videos, I'm like, I love this guy. He's the best. Watch it every time.
It's
You
even
do
better
too.
when it's your 12-year-old daughter you see that's being served up. You're like, oh, she's great.
Wow, what a great family. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, Iyaz Akhtar. Talk to you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going
Yes.
on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these
I'm
wonderful
sorry,
names.
I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're
I think
addicted.
as long as it's consensual, like, fine.
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.